Hello, everyone. Sorry that took a while. I'm going to talk about element queries, which are basically the same as media queries, except for elements instead of media. So should be straightforward to everyone who knows at least a little bit of CSS. Just for a little recap, so media queries let you decide, assign a chunk of CSS depending on how wide or how narrow or sometimes how tall your screen is or your window is, so you can kind of do that. So that should be like totally familiar to everyone. That's cool. Media queries, lots of fun. But sometimes when we want, media queries force you to measure the wrong thing. You're assigning the layout of a little module based on the size of the whole screen, and like sometimes that's what you want when you're doing like the broad strokes layout. That's what you want, but sometimes you want like your little module to be laid out based on the size of its container, not the size of the entire screen. And so that lets us do element queries, which doesn't actually exist yet. So we have to use JavaScript, but we don't have to write any JavaScript. We just have to use somebody else's JavaScript. So don't worry about it. What we want is something that looks a bit like this. We've got our CSS with min width set on that particular element. And so if the width is at least 480 pixels wide, that chunk gets executed, applied. And if the element is at least 720 pixels wide, then that chunk of CSS will get applied. Cool. But we can't really do that yet because browsers are slow and take time to develop things, developers. So what we can do is pretend with attribute selectors. So most of the various kind of JavaScript libraries that do this use this kind of syntax. They give you a little attribute of min width or max width or min height or max height. And for every size that it is at least or at most, depending, it will get in that attribute. So, and then you use the attribute selector to choose which bits of CSS apply. That should be straightforward. I don't know why I'm stumbling over my words. Carry on. So this is super straightforward in terms of like the actual text and the syntax. The examples will be a little bit more involved because it's something that we don't know how to do yet, because it's something that doesn't exist. So new ways of thinking are awesome. So form fields, a very simple thing. Everybody has to deal with form fields. I have a microphone. Hello. I have too much microphone. You guys don't agree. Oh, that's much better. Okay, form fields. So say it's a very simple sign-up form. You have your labels on top of the fields. This is good. Everybody likes. But then you can just, it looks very pretty like that. And then you have to make it slightly wider. So on your tablet view, you have the labels next to the fields. This you can do with media queries as is. You don't have to mess around with element queries. But then on your desktop, you want to have it in a modal dialog, and you want to have it look a lot like your mobile view looked. So we can do something like this. Rather than having to copy-paste our rules from there down to here and make sure we're overriding everything that we have here, I cut out all the boring CSS bits that it doesn't really matter what the properties are. They can be anything. But by measuring what we're actually measuring rather than the width of the screen, we have something that is much more stable. If we decide to change the breakpoints, it's not going to affect whether or not our form suddenly goes wonky. If we decide to have it so that on an especially wide screen, we want to have the little labels next to the fields again. We can do that because the layout is tied solely to the width of the parent element rather than the whole page. Yes, yeah, super straightforward idea and opens up a whole lot of opportunities that are really annoying to develop around otherwise. I've been there. So most of the examples are going to be things like, I have this module and I want it to look like this, and when I have one next to it. I wish my notes worked. Now dive straight ahead. Right, so this is a stupid example. Assume I have a chart. It looks like this. The x-axis labels are every second one because that's how many fit. If I want to have another chart, then it's like every fourth or fifth or something. And they don't overlap because I'm doing this magic. And it is horrendous magic because you can't actually do this with CSS as it is today. Whereas the other one you can do, you just have to do it in an annoying kind of overriding itself manner. But this is, it requires that, which I promise you is not that scary, it's just over and over again the same thing. But a combination, because this is within CSS rather than like over somewhere in your JavaScript land where you're hiding and showing things, we can combine rules with selectors that work, such as child of type and so there are other examples of uses for this that other people have created that work better than mine. So, first one, this is Matt McKees. Some clever CSS fellow. And his example is, so you've got a store, your products are laid out as these modules, and depending on the screen, it might be a vertical module or a horizontal module, and depending on whether it's a featured one or just a plebeian one. And you don't want to be jumping back and forth and overriding your rules over and over again. So this is a case where element queries would shine. And Matt Marquise is part of the responsive images working content group. Something, the C stands for something, who are setting up a proposal to get this into actual browsers rather than just people's JavaScript dreamlands. And this is another example of a case where you would want element queries. So you've got your weekly planner thing, and you have a nice mobile layout, and you think, I can use the mobile layout when I click into one of these and want to edit its details. So if you were doing it in media query land, you'd click into it and everything would be compressed to the side while your thing says, I don't know what this mobile layout you have, I'm just doing what the desktop tells me. So this is another case where element queries would shine because you're not setting out your layout based on the width of the window, you're based on the width of the thing that you're wanting to, yeah, so element queries, cool. They're very straightforward, and it would be nice to have them. And until then, we have not very complicated JavaScript to get there. I promise it's not complicated. I read some of them. There are some resources. There are some various libraries that you can use. They have different trade-offs. Some are nicer to computers, some are nicer to developers. Have fun.